Nuance. Noun. A subtle difference that changes how something is understood. In the meeting, she clarified the nuance between delaying the launch and pausing it entirely because the distinction shaped how the team communicated with customers. Pragmatic. Adjective. Guided by practical considerations rather than ideals. He took a pragmatic approach to the budget, choosing improvements that reduced complaints quickly instead of chasing a perfect solution that would take months. Scrutinize. Verb. To examine something carefully in order to judge it. Before signing the lease, they scrutinized the fine print, noting the maintenance clause and the oddly strict rules about visitors. Ambivalent. Adjective. Having mixed feelings about something. She felt ambivalent about moving, excited by the new job but uneasy about leaving the neighborhood where she had built a steady routine. Eloquent. Adjective. Expressing ideas clearly and persuasively. His eloquent toast balanced humor and gratitude, and even the quiet relatives at the far end of the table leaned in to listen. Resilient. Adjective. Able to recover quickly from difficulty. After the grant was rejected, the resilient team regrouped, rewrote the proposal, and secured funding from a different foundation. Meticulous. Adjective. Showing great attention to detail. Her meticulous notes from the interview helped the article avoid errors, especially when the facts became complicated and easy to misstate. Concede. Verb. To admit something reluctantly, especially after debate. After reviewing the data together, he conceded that the earlier forecast was too optimistic, even though he disliked changing course publicly. Candid. Adjective. Truthful and straightforward in a way that may be surprising. During the performance review, her candid feedback was uncomfortable at first, but it gave him a clear path to improve. Ubiquitous. Adjective. Present or found almost everywhere. By the time they arrived, the ubiquitous scent of roasted coffee had drifted through the entire market, pulling people toward the small kiosk. Plausible. Adjective. Seeming reasonable or likely to be true. Her explanation sounded plausible until the timeline was compared with the security logs, which showed she could not have been there. Skeptical. Adjective. Not easily convinced, inclined to doubt. He was skeptical of the too-good offer, so he read independent reviews and called the company before sharing any personal information. Defer. Verb. To delay an action or decision until later. They chose to defer the renovation until spring, when contractors were available and the supply costs were less unpredictable. Equitable. Adjective. Fair and impartial in the way people are treated. The manager worked toward an equitable schedule, considering caregiving responsibilities and commute times rather than rewarding whoever complained loudest. Fortify. Verb. To strengthen something against problems or attack. To fortify the plan, they added a backup vendor and a clear escalation process for nights when shipments ran late. Impetus. Noun. A force or event that makes something happen or progress. The unexpected customer letter provided the impetus for redesigning the onboarding flow because it described confusion the team had stopped noticing. Discerning. Adjective. Having good judgment, especially about quality. A discerning reader could tell the difference between a rushed argument and a carefully developed idea with sources that held up. Arduous. Adjective. Requiring great effort over a long period. Training for the mountain trek was arduous, with early mornings, heavy packs, and steady progress that rarely felt dramatic. Coherent. Adjective. Logical and consistent in a way that is easy to follow. Her report was coherent from start to finish, tying each recommendation to a clear risk and a realistic timeline for addressing it. Bolster. Verb. To support or strengthen something. He tried to bolster her confidence before the presentation by rehearsing questions with her and reminding her of past successes. Pervasive. Adjective. Spread widely through an area or group. The pervasive sense of uncertainty in the office lifted only after leadership explained the reorganization and answered questions without dodging them. Ambiguous. Adjective. Open to more than one interpretation. The contract language was ambiguous, so both sides thought they had won the point until the lawyer pointed out the missing definition. Reconcile. Verb. To bring two things into agreement after they seem to conflict. She tried to reconcile the new policy with the company's stated values, and the tension became the central topic of the staff meeting. Deliberate. Adjective. Done intentionally and with careful thought. His deliberate pacing made the workshop feel calm, and participants had time to reflect instead of rushing from slide to slide. Audacious. Adjective. Bold in a confident, sometimes surprising way. It was an audacious proposal to cut the product line in half, but the argument was detailed enough that the board took it seriously. Inadvertent. Adjective. Happening without intention or planning. Her inadvertent reply all turned a private question into a group discussion, and she spent the afternoon smoothing over the confusion. Salient. Adjective. Most noticeable or important in a situation. The most salient issue was not the new feature list, but the rising support backlog that threatened to erode trust. Conspicuous. Adjective. Easy to notice because it stands out. His conspicuous silence during the vote signaled disagreement, especially when he usually spoke early and with certainty. Repercussion. Noun. An unintended result that follows an action. They considered the immediate savings, but the potential repercussion of losing experienced staff made the decision far more complex. Endorse. Verb. To publicly support or approve something. The committee agreed to endorse the initiative only after safeguards were added, because they did not want to appear careless about privacy. Tenuous. Adjective. Weak or uncertain and likely to change. Their agreement was tenuous, held together by a deadline and good manners rather than genuine alignment on the main goal. Incisive. Adjective. Clearly and intelligently analyzing what is important. Her incisive questions revealed gaps in the proposal, and the team left with a sharper understanding of what still needed work. Emerge. Verb. To become visible or known as a result of change or time. Over weeks of small experiments, a better strategy began to emerge, shaped by what customers actually did rather than what they claimed they wanted. Catalyst. Noun. Something that causes change or action. The documentary became a catalyst for community meetings because it gave residents a shared language for concerns they had voiced separately. Vindicate. Verb. To show that someone was right or justified. When the audit report arrived, it seemed to vindicate her earlier warnings, and the mood shifted from doubt to respect. Prevalent. Adjective. Common in a particular place or among a group. Remote work was prevalent in their industry long before it became fashionable, largely because the talent pool was spread across cities. Feasible. Adjective. Possible to do successfully with available resources. The timeline felt ambitious, but it was feasible once they reduced unnecessary steps and assigned clear ownership for each deliverable. Constrain. Verb. To limit what someone or something can do. The small venue constrained the staging options, so the director leaned into intimate lighting and a tighter set design. Exacerbate. Verb. To make a bad situation worse. Ignoring the early complaints only exacerbated the conflict because people assumed their concerns would never be taken seriously. Subtle. Adjective. Not obvious and requiring attention to notice. The message carried a subtle warning, delivered with polite language that still left no doubt about the consequences. Impeccable. Adjective. Without mistakes or faults. Her impeccable timing during the debate kept the discussion focused, even when the audience tried to steer it towards side arguments. Conventional. Adjective. Based on what is usual or widely accepted. Their conventional marketing plan worked fine, but it did not differentiate them in a crowded field where everyone sounded similar. Intuitive. Adjective. Easy to understand without needing explanation. The app felt intuitive because the next step was always visible, so new users could finish tasks without a tutorial. Peripheral. Adjective. Related but not central to the main issue. Budget concerns were real, but they were peripheral to the bigger problem, which was that the project lacked a clear purpose. Sustain. Verb. To keep something going over time. To sustain momentum after the launch, they scheduled regular check-ins and tracked a few meaningful metrics instead of chasing every number. Conscientious. Adjective. Careful to do what is right and thorough. A conscientious supervisor reviewed the safety checklist with new staff, not because it was exciting, but because it prevented avoidable injuries. Impartial. Adjective. Not favoring one side over another. As an impartial mediator, she summarized each position accurately and made sure the quiet participants had equal time to speak. Sagacious. Adjective. Having wise judgment built from experience. His sagacious advice was to focus on the customer journey first, because clever features would not matter if people felt lost early on. That's everything for this session. If this helped you, subscribe for more. See you next time.